Hi, I'm Joy Macknight, Transaction Banking and Technology Editor at The Banker, and I'm here with Satvinder Singh, who is Global Head of Institutional Cash and Security Services at Deutsche Bank. Thanks so much for joining us today. We're on the fourth day, the final day of Sibos. What would you say are the hot topics that you've noticed across the week?
Actually, if you look at Sibos this year, it's difficult to say there's been one theme. In my mind, there's been three different themes that everybody's kind of talked about. One is, how do we get the basics right? How do we get KYC right? How do we get AML right? How do we get the basics of what we do absolutely spot on? And how do we ensure there's standardization across that? The second part is, how do we make sure that there are growth opportunities? And these are all the meetings we have with our clients. This is what we talk with the industry. Where do we see growth happening in the industry? And the third part, and a bigger part this year than I've ever seen, has been around technology. What's the impact of technology? We all know technology is one of the core pillars of how transactional banking is created and delivered. So what will technology do? Not today, because we understand that, but 3 years or 5 years down the road.
Excellent, that sounds really interesting. And you spoke on a panel earlier this week. Can you give us some of the discussion points that you were talking about?
So the panel was really on security services, where the industry is, what we think it's going to take to grow it. And we all felt really passionate about it. We were part of the industry, we see growth opportunities, we want to tap into them. And the key theme I was making was, we have to change our mindset. The day of the transactional banker or the security services provider wanting to do everything in the value chain, I think those days are long gone. Whether they've been triggered by T2S or other infrastructure changes, we have to adapt. And the adaptation is not really about changing the business model completely. It's about making it into an open architecture, allowing bits and pieces to be modularized, and then sitting back and allowing clients to choose whether they choose the whole value chain or bits and pieces, and then you collaborate with the rest. I think that's the fundamental change we all need to make.
Excellent. And you talked a little bit about sort of technology. Obviously, blockchain, there's been a lot of buzz around that. How do you think it's going to impact transaction banking and security services?
Sure. So if you look at blockchain and other technologies, there's two ways to look at it. A lot of people focus, in my mind, on the negative, and it's categorized as disruptive technology. I would much rather be in the other camp, which is looking at technology as an enabler. As I said earlier, transactional banking is all about technology. How you put technology, operations, and a service layer on top and provide that to clients. So if we look at it as an enabler, we will work with them. So let's look at a typical transactional bank. It's a large organization, spends a lot of money on technology, has very, very bright people, has sometimes the best people on the ground, very well connected with the regulators, and has a fantastic client base. That's more or less a transactional bank. Let's look at a small technology company, 10 to 20 people, very bright, probably looking for a place where they can make an immediate difference, funded very differently. A lot of these blockchain companies, a lot of these fintechs are funded very differently to what a bank gets funded by and has a different expectation. The two will not compete because they're very different ends of the spectrum. The combination of the two could be very interesting from a client perspective. And that's where we're spending our time. What is blockchain? What are the other technologies out there? How can we work with them? How can we actually continue doing what we're paid to do, which is add value to a client?
Excellent. And next year, Sibos will be in Geneva, so back in Europe. What do you think will be the hot topics for next year?
I think if you look at the three themes I described for this year, it'll be a continuation of that, because we need to continuously look at our processes, how are we set up, make sure we're always in compliance with the regulators. So that topic will always be there. The second topic of growth, we are, after all, a part of a financial institution, a part of a bank. All of us, all the transactional banks are structured that way, so growth is absolutely critical, particularly if our firms are investing in this. And the third part about technology, I think some of those questions will start getting answered. At this Sibos, I heard more questions than answers. At the next Sibos, I'm hoping we'll get a few answers and maybe a few more questions, but at least a few more answers.
That's great. Thank you so much, Satvinder.
Thank you very much.